So hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us in our Mechanical Engineering Careers panel today. My name is Ashita Rajo, and I'm a rising sophomore at The Ohio State University studying finance. I'm a business development intern with Millie currently, and I'll be moderating this panel today. And for those of you who are joining us at this Millie panel for the first time, Millie is a global company dedicated to building a global community for international school students. And for that, we host events like these, like webinars and panels every weekend. So if you're interested in any future panels, you can give us a follow on our Instagram account, which is Millie_underscore group, or you can check out our company's website. We also have a directory of past events on our company's website and on YouTube, so you can definitely check those out too. So basically, here's how's the panels going to go today. We have some pre-prepared questions for the panelists, but you can also submit your own questions in the chat box. They can be specific towards an individual panelist or be general towards all of them. And so, yeah, that's about it. Let's get started. So we'll start with introductions. You can introduce yourselves by telling us your name, where you're from, and the city you're working in right now, and one fun fact, which is the first thing you ever designed.
Okay, so hi everybody. Thank you very much, Ashli, for hosting and thanks for welcoming us. So my name is Kazi Hawk, and I'm currently living in Montreal, Canada, and I'm originally from Bangladesh. And one fun fact about me is a lot of people say that I don't look as tall as I am actually in real life when they talk to me on Zoom or Teams calls like these. So I'm actually 6'2", but people say that I don't look like 6'2" when they see just my face. So that's one fun fact. The first thing I ever designed, I think it was a programming course in university, where we had to make a robot that follows a wall and goes through an obstacle course. So that was a pretty intense and a pretty satisfying first design for me. Yeah, that's it.
All right, good day, everyone. Thank you, Azri, for also introducing. My name is Joshua Ayambode. I'm currently a design engineer for a nuclear company here in Canada. I'm originally from Nigeria, and I currently live in Kincardine, Ontario. Fun fact about me is I love playing soccer. I usually call it football, but in North America, you have to call it soccer. So, and first thing I ever designed was a mechanical, I believe it was a skeletal mechanical clock, and that was for my last year capstone project. And pretty much that's all about it.
Thank you so much. Those are really good introductions. Really interesting fun facts. I loved listening about your first thing you ever designed. So, starting with a question about like a wider perspective on your industry, how would you describe what the role of a mechanical engineering entails, and if you can tie that question into your current role and what tasks you mainly work with as of now and the company you work with?
Okay, so I'm currently working as a medical device specialist or medical device engineer with a pharmaceutical company based out of Canada, of course. But it's interesting because a lot of people think, well, you're a mechanical engineer and you're working in a pharmaceutical company. How did that work? So, the good thing about mechanical engineering is it's so diverse, from automotive to aerospace to petrochemicals to even the medical device industry. You need mechanical engineers everywhere. So being a medical device specialist, I actually develop card-based medical devices that actually help you to predict advanced cases of cardiac failures. So it's a pretty fulfilling and a gratifying career. And how did I end up here is I started with petrochemicals, went into quality through that industry, and having looked at quality overall, I realized that when you really enter development and engineering, right, how quality and engineering plays between themselves, and how important it is for somebody to have quality knowledge to apply to development engineering too. And from petrochemicals, I applied my skills to aviation. And from aviation, I wanted to jump to a different field of medical devices. But the principles really, really never changed that much. It's just the framework that kept changing for me. So yeah, that's how, it worked out for me.
Just following up from what Kazi said, maybe I may be a bit biased. I think mechanical engineering, first of all, is the best form of engineering because it is broad, it is diverse, it helps you venture into many different industries. For example, I currently work as a nuclear professional, and I work for a nuclear company here in Canada, and I work as a design engineer. And one of the things I do in my everyday role is whenever there's a lot of like maintenance issues in the station, we have to design new parts or new equipments that have to fit within the configuration that already exists in the station. So there's a lot of just designing and then getting those designs approved. And then sometimes some of our equipment in the station are different classes. So there's a lot of registration that goes into that. We have to provide justification as to why we're using different registration classes. So from my perspective of mechanical engineering, it pretty much gives you the opportunity to just venture into different industries and gain various experiences. So that's my intake on it.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. Those are excellent explanations, and I loved hearing about how volatile the industry is, as opposed to the common belief that it's only narrow. It's a really narrow towards one specific area or field. So my next question is more academics focused. So at what point of your academic journey, or maybe even the career, did you know that you want to go into mechanical engineering? And was the degree you pursued during your university related to mechanical engineering, or was it a different one?
Okay, so it's a good question, actually. And I'm going to talk about a little bit of a different aspect tied with that question. So did I always want to get into mechanical engineering? I didn't actually know, right? Coming after high school, it's difficult for somebody to make a decision as big as what am I going to do with my life for the next 40, 50 years, right? You're asking that question to a 18-year-old kid, right? And it's not easy to answer that question. So I actually looked at what some of my best friends were doing, and I actually did that. So one of my best friends was doing electrical engineering, and I thought, if you can do it, I can do it too. So I started off in electrical engineering, tried that for a couple of semesters, and I realized that was not my thing. And that's when I started looking deep down into, what are some of my strengths, right? I was good in math. Yes, I was good in physics. And what subjects when I was studying math and physics were more appealing to me? Was it really electricity and optics and magnetism, or was it more like the dynamics and the laws of, for example, aviation, so principles of flying, those kind of topics? And I realized, yeah, so things where things move and I can see and I can calculate those movements, those are things that I actually like. And that's when I moved from electrical to mechanical. And since I started, I absolutely loved it. But yeah, a lot of things depends on all your associations too. So, there's nothing wrong if, the people you surround yourself with are in a good association, because then you can follow that path. But you got to watch out for your associations, because you'll probably end up doing exactly what your best friends are doing. Yeah.
Kazi made a very, 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 very important observation there, and that is people ask young people, hey, what do you want to do within the next 40 to 50 years of your life? I think that's a big question. And I think a lot of young people tend to make incorrect decisions that don't necessarily help them. If you're someone that is passionate for engineering and someone that really enjoys the field of engineering, I genuinely believe mechanical engineering gives you more opportunity to explore more options. The problem is when I was about to start university, I was trying to go into automotive. I was trying to specify my field into automotive engineering. And I was lucky and privileged to have other professional engineers in other field and in other industry that kind of gave me a different perspective. They said, you know what, there's nothing wrong in being a specialist. There's nothing wrong in having a specific field you focus on. But if you're someone that just enjoys engineering, but you're not sure where you would like to end up in engineering, then mechanical engineering, the general option might be a best fit for you because most industries of the world tend to require mechanical engineers. So it gives you more of a broader option to eventually decide what fits you the most by doing your internships or co-op programs. So that has been my pretty much experience in the educational side of things.
So those are perfect answers. Thank you so much, guys. But I would say I really resonate with when you said that young people especially, tend to get lost when they are looking for what to pick as a career, having gone through that experience only recently, being a sophomore university student right now. So I definitely resonate with that. And since most of our audience are university students who are, not university students, high school students who are probably going to be looking into mechanical engineering careers and different paths and going to apply to universities. This brings us to our next question, which was when you applied to your universities. So what were some factors that you considered when choosing like the list of the universities, and what would you say like students should generally look at when applying to it?
So, being an international student, one of the biggest things for me was actually cost. And coming to Canada from Bangladesh, and Canadian and American universities are not cheap, right? So, and international students have to pay almost sometimes 3 to 4 times more than what locals pay. So I was looking for a cost-effective program that had, of course, not just bachelor's, but also had a master's and a PhD. Not that I wanted to do master's and PhD, but that kind of gives you an idea on the kind of backing or the kind of expertise that engineering faculty has. If you have master's and PhD students, you have professors helping master's and PhD students who will teach your undergrad. So there's a very high level of expertise there, right? Rather than a university that has just bachelor's and master's only, for example. So that was one thing. Cost, how old the engineering program was. Like I wanted to get into something that was established, has been there for a while. And also co-op programs. This is something, especially for those who are looking to apply to Canada. Canada has all the universities of Canada maintain a certain standard. So the standard was not a very big issue for me because I know there's like 80 to 100 universities in Canada, and all of them have to be accredited, especially to teach engineering. So the quality of the program was not a question for me, but did the program have a co-op option so that you could earn and cover some of your expenses? So these were some of the factors I looked into. Yeah.
For me, the factors I looked into when considering the university of choice was I needed to get a university that had co-op option, like what Kazi said. I think co-op is very, very important. And I also wanted to see the type of industry that were within the location. Something that I think a lot of international students probably would have to consider or put into account is international fees are a lot more expensive than the Canadian fees. So you don't have to go to the most expensive university to actually become an engineer. You can go to a pretty normal university, average, pay the tuition, get the education. The most important thing in the field of engineering is experience. The more experience you have on your resume, the more you can really go into the job market and become an asset to employers. It is not really about the school you go to. So I think if you're going to pick a university, focus on schools that give you the options for co-op and internship. And I believe most schools that teach engineering in Canada, for example, they do give you that option for co-op and internships. So those are the things I considered.
Okay, thank you so much. Those were amazing answers, and definitely agree with the faculty expertise and looking for universities that provide more work experience opportunities rather than tending to apply for the name of the university. Definitely resonate with that. And we have a question from our attendee, Callie. Thank you so much for your question. So the question is, are there any success stories of specific individuals in mechanical engineering that you have looked up to and would like to share with us? So any role models you have been looking up to throughout your journeys or in your university?
Role models, actually, I found a few role models when I was doing my co-ops. So I found some of my superiors or my supervisors who I thought were really cool in how they handled themselves and how they went about their jobs. And I never really had a celebrity figure like like an Elon Musk or somebody like that, who people typically bring up nowadays. But my role models were people really I worked with and I looked up to and who helped me in my journey. Yeah.
I would say the same thing. A lot of my role models were the people that I worked with during my co-op and internship period, because you tend to like look up to people that you can relate with the most, people who have gone through similar struggles like you. I look up to Elon Musk, to be fair, but he's not like a direct role model of me. So he's more like an engineer that I respect, and that I respect, and I respect what he has accomplished in the world and in the financial world. So I personally just look up to the people I worked with during my internships.
Okay, those are great answers. Thank you so much, guys. So we'll be moving on to questions that are more work and career focused now. So starting with where you started, what was your first job role in this industry, and how was your experience? Like, was there something surprising or pleasantly surprising or something challenging that you came across, and how did you go about working with it?
So my first role after graduation was actually working in an HVAC company that was around there for 30, 40 years. And it was an Ontario-based company. And I was working as a research and development engineer, or we cannot use the word engineer right after graduation. You gotta get your professional engineer designation. So I was a research and development specialist. I did that for a couple of years. And while I was in the engineering discipline there, I realized, there's so many things that you can do, especially when you start off in a small company. You can be a quality person, you can be a supply chain person, you can be the engineer. So that was a great experience, actually, right? Instead of getting into a big corporation where you're put into silos and this is your only thing you will do. Yeah, I entered into a company that was sized about 30, 40 people. And I touched a lot of different things or different aspects of the job. And that was a very good experience. Yeah.
For me, after graduation, I worked for a telecommunication company in Ontario as an engineering field coordinator. I worked there for about 4.5 months before I moved on to my other role in the nuclear industry as a project engineer. And now I'm in the same company. I work as a design engineer. And I think one thing that has surprised me a lot in the field of engineering is the administrative work. People always talk about the technical side of things, Yes, you're going to do the technical side of things. That's part of it. But there's also the administrative side of engineering that people don't talk about. And the purpose for the administrative side of things is so that you can also convey information to the common people, or the common people who don't do engineering. You want to be able to transport information to them. So that's the importance of the administrative side of things. So for people that don't know, engineering is not just about the technical side, but there is the technical side, but there's also the administrative side for the people who are not as technically inclined as yourself. So, just to answer that question.
Okay. These are great answers too. And our next question is also about your role. So throughout the time you have been working as a mechanical engineer, what are your most favorite parts and least favorite parts that there in while working as an engineer?
So yes, I did work in different roles and different industries, as I mentioned in the beginning. Quality, research and development, and core engineering, and across different fields too, right? Oil and gas, construction, government facilities, private facilities, and now in medical devices. And I was in aviation also for a short stint. So some of the things that I really enjoyed is the kind of things you can do with the tool sets that you get from school, right? You can design, you can deploy, you can you can improve, you can create new things. So with mechanical engineering, and people also think who are not mechanical engineers, that mechanical engineers can do a lot of things. So whether it's fixing maybe a printer in your office, all the way to getting a whole team of engineers and collaborators together and host a big panel like this, or even communicate, like Joshua said, to the general masses. People know that mechanical engineers are very diverse, and this is something that I also love doing, and I have been doing, where you focus on small things, but also you can zoom out and you can do the bigger, take care of the bigger things too. And some of the things that I don't really favor that much, it's really hard to say, because I look at everything as a challenge. And when you get a challenge, engineers are natural problem solvers. You get into the mode of solving that problem and solving that challenge, and that challenge then becomes interesting. So you cannot really not like something, because you immediately get into the mode of solving that problem. So yeah, that's my take on that.
For me, once again, I'm just gonna say mechanical engineering is the best form of engineering as far as I'm concerned. But just to say the things I enjoy about engineering from working is when I see my projects become a reality, the execution of the project. I think that is the most interesting part of engineering. For example, last year when I was still working as a project engineer, and I saw when we moved the projects from the development phase up onto the commissioning phase, just seeing hey, this is the project that we started and now everything is working. I think that is the most fulfilling part of my job. As a design engineer now, I mainly start from the designing phase of everything. So I design things, and then when I see them come to fruition, it makes me fulfilled. It makes me feel like, okay, the pipeline I constructed there, that's the new pipe. And see the water is going through that pipe. So I think that for me is fulfilling and makes me very happy.
Okay, those are great answers again. Thank you so much, guys. I definitely like the take on engineers as being problem solvers and doing everything as a challenge. That was interesting. And moving on to our next question. This is more about individual mechanical engineers. Like throughout your journey, you might have met a lot of fellow mechanical engineers, and are there any crucial characteristics or attributes that you have noticed in other mechanical engineers and in yourself developing over time that you think might be necessary to enter or at least maintain your career in this field?
Yeah, so if you're looking for a path in mechanical engineering or engineering in general, it's important to be able to communicate a problem and also communicate the solution effectively on a technical level, as Joshua earlier mentioned, and also on a wide scope for the general public, right? That's one aspect. The other aspect is, you have to learn how to visualize the problem. You have to be a creative person, actually. A lot of people think, engineers are monotonous, sitting in a desk with a laptop typing away. It's not like that. You really have to be creative at the same time in terms of coming up with solutions and visualizing what the issue could be in the future, right? Rather than what the issue is only now. And I have to be an effective communicator, like I mentioned, not just within, and it's important to maintain good relationships and good communication with the people you're working with, of course, with the people not necessarily within your department, but within your company, and also have a very wide network of people from whom you can draw knowledge and draw information that will make you better. So yeah, those are some of the things I can think of.
I think Kazi brings up very, very good points there. So what I've come to notice within, the industry I work in, and a lot in other industries I was able to work in, was engineers tend to be very to their business. Engineers tend to be like, the typical geeks, typical nerds. We just focus on our work and we get the job done. That is it. Now you can get into the field of engineering by just being smart and focusing on doing your job. But if you want to be very successful in the field of engineering, you need to work on your people skill. You need to learn to communicate with others. You need to build your network. You need to speak to other engineers. You need to be able to speak with management and communicate effectively. Effective communication is about being able to speak to normal people that are not necessarily engineers and also communicate problems to them that they can understand. So I think if you want to be able to maintain your status or maintain engineering and grow forward and improve and keep improving your growth level in engineering, you need to definitely grow your network and have good people skill.
Okay, those are really good explanations. I think both of you also brought up really good explanations for some myths that people hold against engineers. So definitely communication and creativity. It was interesting to hear about those, and like Joshua mentioned earlier, communicating to the masses, and like Kazi mentioned, using creativity because engineering is basically designing and creating and a lot more things that you guys mentioned throughout conversation. So it's really interesting how these myths were do not hold true most of the times. So our next question is about your specific projects. So was there any specific particular project or design that you were working on and that stood out to you and was interesting? Would you like to talk about it?
Sure. Yes, I can remember. I can think of two actually. When I was working in aviation, we're actually building a state-of-the-art business jet that was almost reaching the speed of sound when it was flying close to Mach 1. And the first plane that ever had to be built from that facility in Toronto had to actually clear all its quality defects, all the outstanding engineering work before it could be flown to Montreal to finally finish the painting, install all the furnishings in the plane, and the plane can be handed over to the customer. So it was 6 months of work where we were actually cleaning up all the the non-conforming defects, cleaning up all the remaining engineering work so that the plane could be fit to fly, right, for its first flight to Montreal. And I was a part of that team of that tiger team of 10 to 15 people, and that was a very intense. We even had to go to work at 4 o'clock in the morning, but it was we were happy going to work because we really it was so tied with our egos at that point that we had to get this plane out of the door of this airport, and it was fantastic. That was one project that really stood out. And the other interesting project was in my first job, where I was working in an ice generating company. I remember going to a client who was in the US, in Washington, in the middle of nowhere on Aboriginal lands by the Columbia River, where we had to sell an ice generator to preserve the salmon that they were catching from the Columbia River. And it was such a fantastic experience, the air, the people, the fish, and then our product and people looking at you as the guy who will make sure that the salmon doesn't go bad. So a couple of really interesting projects that I can remember. Yeah.
For me right now, I'm working on one project I think is pretty interesting. I'm currently the lead engineer for the project. And the whole concept of the project is pretty much about the redirection of radioactive spent resin slurries to a different storage sites and location. So what pretty much what makes it interesting for me is like I go into the station and I put on this very Tyvek. I put on some Tyveks, put on some gloves, boots, and I go into like different parts of the station that obviously the radioactivity, the radiation in those areas tend to be a bit more than other parts of the station. And I wear like a monitor that tracks the amount of radiation I'm taking in. So if I take in a lot, I'm not allowed to go to that place, to that location again. So I mean the radiation I'm not taking a lot of radiation, trust me, it's pretty little, like 0.1 milligram per hour. So I think that's pretty healthy for most human beings. But the interesting part of that project for me is just the experience of being in different parts of the station, looking at the piping connection, looking at how we're gonna redirect the radioactive slurry, having to maybe use a different class of pipe because those slurries are radioactive. It gives you a different understanding and view of the nuclear industry. Makes you see the other side of it that can be that has radiation, but it's well controlled and well dealt with.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. Those are really interesting projects, especially the point you mentioned at the airport and you too, Tasha. It was, yeah, it's really interesting hearing about individual projects. And now talking about the industry in a more general perspective, uh, I found it interesting, like the effect of this digitization and the increasing focus on sustainability in all industries and all areas. So I know that might be a big thing to consider when it comes to mechanical engineering, as there are a lot of factors that might be affected by the emphasis on sustainability and digitization. So do you guys have any thoughts on how that would affect the development of the industry in the coming years, or how it has already done?
Yeah, it's a difficult one to answer actually, because you're trying to predict the future here. But the industry will definitely change, right? But it's going to be for the better. A lot of people think that, oh, a very common misconception is AI will take over everything. I don't think, it's actually possible, because the human element is always needed. So there's two facets to that question, actually, right? The digitization and then the sustainability. Digitization will happen, and it will happen for the better, to make our jobs better, right? It's not to replace us. So if you can, get a head start on understanding, right? There's so many courses you can do, or, programs that, even for free, that teaches you, how generative AI works, and, what sort of, digital advances are going to be in different spaces, because mechanical engineering is very broad, right? So being on the cutting edge of that discussion by updating your knowledge all the time will make sure that you don't go obsolete, right? So as long as you keep your knowledge up to date on, collaborate with people who are, on that cutting edge, right? That's why networking is so important. Whenever, you get the opportunity to learn from seminars within companies, and even, from like maybe Millie will probably in the future host something about AI revolution, right? So attending panels like these and talks like these will really help you understand where the direction is heading, the industry is heading in which direction. So that's the digitization part of it. And then the sustainability part, it's very important. And I believe it should start from a personal level, right? Choices you make that are sustainable, and then think about, the companies that you will work with in the future, how you can be that driver of sustainability, or the face of sustainability within your department, if not within your company, right? For example, just a very small example I can give you is when we choose materials for manufacturing or designing a product, before even going into the design and starting to buy and outsource different kind of materials, we look into where these materials are coming from. how long will they be used, and what is going to be the life cycle at the end of these materials. So there's a lot of thought process that goes into even choosing materials for construction. So, it starts, like I said, it starts from a personal level, but then you start it and then you apply it on a company level. It means your teams. And then, you start driving those changes on a bigger company level. And you'll understand that once you get into your job on how, you think your company can improve in the sustainability department. That's all.
Okay, giving my input here. First of all, I'd like to say everyone should relax. Digitization is not going to remove engineering. We're always going to need engineers. That is just part of the way the world is. Kazi brought up some very, very good points. I'm just going to add a little bit more. When it comes to digitization, I think there's a lot more positions and a lot more occupations that should be worried about that, but not engineers. Engineers are the ones that are even creating all these digital systems to replace people's job. So I don't think we should be worried too hard about it. But when it comes to sustenance, the other part of the question, I think that has to do with just updating your knowledge, making sure you're learning. You're always learning. You have to be a sponge. In the field of engineering, you can never know too much, and ignorance is not an excuse for failure. So you always have to update your knowledge. You always have to keep learning, We all make mistakes. We're not perfect, but just always try to keep updating and keep staying up to date with the latest technology or codes and standards that may govern your industry. That's my take on this.
Okay, thank you so much. Those were really wide and interesting takes on those two factors, especially since technology is so fastly evolving and might be somehow causing panic regarding the future of employment. But as you guys mentioned, there's a human element, and especially when it comes to creation and new ideas, which is, as you earlier mentioned, is a big part of engineering. So I think, yeah, those are really good answers. And our next question is more directed towards the students, and it's about like what careers. I am aware that there are certain specializations that you can pursue under when you're in university, but when it comes to careers, what roles or what areas can you go towards in mechanical engineering as opposed to like just university education?
So it's very broad, right? Since and you can probably tell we are a bit biased when we say mechanical engineering is the best, but we believe really it is the best because there's so many things you can do with this discipline. But yeah, you can end up anywhere. Actually, you can end up being the CEO of a company. Actually, I think the CEO of our present company is a mechanical engineer, and mechanical engineers can be successful business owners, can be excelling, heading businesses, heading departments, working in production, supply chain, quality, right? And graduating from a mechanical engineering degree will kind of set you up to understand and experience and even excel in fields that are not even remotely sometimes related to mechanical engineers. So I've seen a lot of mechanical engineers, for example, become excelling in AI technology and programming and computer languages. I have not seen the other way around, though. I have not seen computer engineers and electrical engineers excelling in the field of mechanical engineering. So this is something you'll see. We are very versatile, and this is how we are raised or programmed from a school level. So yeah, that's my input there.
I believe the question is, are there any fields or careers you can go into that can take you towards engineering without necessarily a post-secondary school education?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like that. I meant there are certain specializations that you can take when you're in university, but when it comes to career, it might or it might not be different. So any input on that?
Okay. Okay. So I believe that I believe everyone should go to school for engineering because I think I don't know how else. I think it's difficult to get like the engineering license without necessarily getting the post-secondary school education. So for the specialization, it depends. Once you get to your second year or your third year and you've done a bit of co-ops and internships in different industries, you start to get an idea and an understanding of what you like to focus on. So once you get that idea, say for example, you want to go into you want to go into normal manufacturing industries, you have to now go to Google, just find certificates that can give you a broader knowledge of different processes in the manufacturing industry. For example, you can go and register for the Lean Six Sigma Green Belt certificates that can give you more broader understanding of the manufacturing industry. If you want to go into nuclear, for example, go online and try and read certificates and things that can give you a broader understanding of the processes and make you a more specialized individual in that specific industry. So it depends on what you think you want to go, what lane you want to go and focus on, and then you go on Google and just search for things that can improve your knowledge within those industries. That's just my take.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. So, taking my next question from your answer, as you mentioned, certifications are like there might be in training programs. So, are there any like specific extracurriculars or certifications or training programs that you personally pursued during your university education, or like that you found crucial in your career? Or it might be not even like direct related to mechanical engineering, so it could be like an extracurricular that just helped you develop necessary skills, or it could be like directly related and like a specific training program or certification that could be a valuable addition to your portfolio.
Personally speaking, I didn't do any training or certifications while I was in school or before school that helped me. But one thing I did do is I was a tutor, so I taught people. So that actually, being a tutor actually kind of opens up your mind in terms of, understanding the perspective of students and also understanding the perspective of how to teach. So this helps you, even when you're in your career later on in life, and even in your job where you're coaching new engineers. So this is something I would recommend, if you get an opportunity to teach and coach younger people, do take that on. And I learned a lot of my people skills, believe it or not, by actually working in Tim Hortons. I don't know if many of you know, but Tim Hortons is actually like Dunkin' Donuts in the US. So it's basically a food service. I was a food service representative and just interacting with customers. Some people have a bad day, some people have a good day. You might have a bad day, you might have a good day. And how do you really maintain a good atmosphere despite all these these hodgepodge of emotions and people coming to you, right? And this is something that will help you in the long run with your people skills, right? And because it's the same people who come for a coffee are the same people you'll be working in your office, and the same people who you'll be delivering your products to as customers. So it's important to understand the human dynamics of it. So if you can get some work experience, not related to engineering, but to serve in the service industry, that should help you as well. Yeah.
I think a certification that can help you in mechanical engineering is to go get your Lean Six Sigma Green Belt certification. I got that when I was about to finish my second year. I got the training. You don't necessarily need to get the certification, but just to get the training can also help. Because to get the training, you have to pay some money, and to get certification, you have to pay some extra money. And sometimes I understand that some students might find it difficult to have everything. So you can pay for one. I think go for the training. I went for the training, get the knowledge. I think it will help you. If employers see that on your resume, that increases their likelihood of wanting to employ you, I believe. For people who like to scale up their career and not just focus on the technical side of things, and they want to become managers, project management certification might be a good idea for you. You can get that maybe after graduation or before you graduate. I wouldn't suggest you get that in your first or second year, just because sometimes when you get to your third and fourth year, you might believe that maybe I prefer to stay in the technical side of things because engineers most times tend to prefer to stay in the technical side of things. You'll make that decision in your final year to probably get your project management certification if that is a path you want to take. Some other certification that I don't necessarily think you need to get in mechanical engineering, but if you get them, can still be a plus is maybe some software like C++ or C programming training or certification because I know IT is pretty big. Software is pretty, it's the best, I think it's the number one booming industry right now. So you might get that, you can get that certification so you can diversify and maybe go into that industry later on. That's just my take on this.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. Those were great answers. Whether it comes to like general extracurriculars, like being a food representative, I definitely agree with that. As I was a food representative too in the past year, and definitely helps with the people skills and specific qualifications and training programs like the Sigma 6 course. They definitely add to technical knowledge and are really good for careers going forward. And this my last question for your career focused questions would be, I know you're biased towards mechanical engineering as you've already mentioned that, but if you were to pursue another career or another field, what would it be, if there's any that you had in mind?
Oh, I would probably be a cricket player or a race car driver. I would have not been an engineer. Yeah. I love sports and I love racing. So yeah.
Same. I would most likely just be a footballer or a football coach or go into sports if I wasn't doing engineering.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for those sound really exciting roles too. And we're near the end of our time, and this brings me to my closing question. So one question is, what piece of advice would you give to your younger self if you could talk to your younger self right now?
If I could talk to my younger self right now, it's a good question. I would say learn how to get things done by collaborating with people. You'll never be able to do anything just by yourself. You always need the support and help of people around you. So be nice to people, help people out, right, without expecting anything in return. And learn how to build connections. Know how to get answers. You might not have answers to a lot of things, which is okay, but have the grit and the resilience and the determination to get after those answers, or go after those answers and find them. And of course you'll learn how to work with people and be kind to people.
Yep, very, very good points from Kazi. I would just say, while you're young, be a sponge. Absorb as much information as you can. Do not have pride. When you're trying to get into the field of engineering, a lot of people will not respect you. And you should not expect people to respect you. You should try to let people earn the respect from people, right? So don't expect that happens. I'm not saying, just go around and expect everyone to disrespect you, but in the field of engineering, you have to earn your respect. So be a sponge, learn as much as you can, and then add value. When you start adding value, people start to look up to you. People start to look to you for other things to like help the company grow, and they start asking you questions. So be a sponge. Number two, get a mentor. Get a mentor. You need someone that can guide you in the journey of life and in the journey of engineering. You can't do it by yourself. Don't be deceived. People who have become engineers and they've retired, a good amount of them had one or two mentors that they looked up to that gave them some good insights. So get a good mentor, someone that actually has your best interest at heart. If you can't find a mentor, you can literally just go on social media. There's a bunch of people who are working as engineers that will be happy to be your mentors. Speak to people like that and get your insights. Number three, get internship or co-op experience. If you're not in the internship or co-op programs of your university, try to speak to family members, try to speak to friends of people that have family members that work in different companies that can hire you, even if they don't hire you as an engineer. If they hire you as an inspector, as long as you don't go and speak to the engineer in the company, you can learn. You don't always need to get the engineering position. It all starts from, you just have to make sure you're making steps that are intentionally taking you to where you like to be. So those are my biggest three advice I would give. Sponge, get a mentor, get experience. You need experience.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. Those were some really insightful answers, and I'm sure our high school or university audience would find them of great help if they're currently in that phase. And to end this panel on a good note, I would like to end with this question. It's actually the closing question from a podcast that I really like. So it's what's the kindest thing that someone has done for you? And I know this can be a bit difficult to answer because it's difficult to find out one specific experience or individual. But if you have any that stick in your mind.
Can you repeat that question, Ashvi? Sorry, I didn't get you there fully.
Oh yeah, sure. What's the kindest thing someone has ever done for you?
What's the kindest thing somebody has done for me? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. I think right after I got laid off from actually one of my jobs because of COVID, and I reached out to one of my one of the people whom I had interviewed with about a couple of years back. And she remembered me. She remembered the experience that it didn't work out 2 years ago, right, when we had interviewed. But she remembered, and then she invited me for, interviewing for a new role that she created within the company, and and then helped me out to get a new job just a month after I lost my job. So that was a very, very good thing that somebody did for me, and I'll always be grateful to her. Yeah.
So first of all, I'd like to thank my mom and my dad. I feel like they've been very, very great people to me. But I think I wouldn't use them in this situation of doing the kindest thing to me. They've done so many great things for me. The kindest thing someone has done for me is my person I'm in a relationship with was kind enough to take time off of work to follow me to a different city that was like about four hours away from hers to help me renew a specific document I was trying to renew. And it happened this year, and it was pretty much a very, very good thing for me. Made me really happy. So I would say, yeah, she really made that sacrifice, and I'm very, very grateful.
Okay, those were amazing answers. Thank you so much, guys. And that was my last question. So that brings me to the end of this panel. And thank you so much for panelists for taking the time out to be here today, and wonderful insight into a wide range of areas that will be university or education or the versatility of mechanical engineering in general, how it incorporates communication and creativity more than people often think. And yeah, thank you so much, guys, and thank you so much to the audience for joining us today. And I'm sure, yeah, you can all agree that our amazing panels have done a fantastic job and provided crucial information. So yeah, it was lovely having you guys here. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Ashvi.